rise. This time I'd like to call on Commissioner Watts for the invitation.
Yes, Judge, thank you. I ask our good friend John is with us this morning, John Ward, and John, it's such a pleasure to have you come by often and visit us, and we thank you for that, and we appreciate I asked him what he knew good this morning. He said he knew the Lord, so that's all that qualifies you to be a prayer warrior, John. So,
well, that certainly does help. Let us pray. We're grateful today, Lord, for this another day, a day which we will give you thanks for. Lord, we thank you for our country, and we pray that you would help us through all the difficulties our nation faces. Thank you for this county, for this state, for these commissioners, this judge. We pray, Lord, that your will be done. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
amen.
Y'all join the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Take seats, please. We do have a little something special this morning. And not be one who profess necessarily April Fool's jokes, but ladies from CASA, we're glad you all are here, but we had you down for next week, but Nancy has it ready today. And since y'all are here, let's go ahead and do this, okay?
Sure.
All right.
The county proclamation for Child Abuse Awareness Month. Thank you.
Yeah. Who's going to come up and take it?
Camille, and I guess Patsy's not here. Yeah.
Do we want to wait just a bit? Or
I'm not sure how long she's going to be, but you want to give her a minute. Or we can go ahead, Camille and I.
you know what? We can just do the consent agenda and we can see if she comes in and we can do that.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned. I'm going to step out and call her. See if
Okay,
she's
all right. We'll do it
Thank you
that
so
way.
much, sir.
All right, anyhow, we're just glad to have you all here. It looks good for us to have a pretty audience.
Well, thank you.
Okay. If I could ask the court to review and take action on the consent agenda, and Nancy, what is, which one in there? No, that's on general business.
Motion to approve, Judge. Second.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, is item 4, that needs to come from judicial fund.
That's our general
That's from the
business.
general
That's
business.
general. That's short of consent agenda? Okay. Who made the motion? I did.
Judge.
Okay.
Lawler,
Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we're down to general business. Review and approve the regular bills for payment.
motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bishop, second by Commissioner Harvey to approve the bills. Any comments or questions on those? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 2, discuss and consider take action to accept the TUSA proposal to support acceptance testing procedures, ATP, for the radio system final installation at a cost not to exceed $29,200 for phase 1 to be paid from Fund 404, 2016 limited tax note. Mr. Burgoyne is here on this, and we have talked about this because of the number of things in this. Mr. Tusa had helped us devise and develop a plan, and it would seem to me for $1 million investment that we probably ought to have someone that has the technical expertise to make sure we're getting what we're paying for to do that. Mr. Burgoyne, anything else to add to that?
No, sir, I think you pretty much hit it, but, TUSA is an engineering firm. Like you said, they helped us select the, system we were gonna go with, and I'm not an engineer, so I can go to the sites when they're all done, I can look at the stuff and I can say, yeah, that all looks good and it works. But to get the best thing that, the best bang for our buck that we're paying for, I really think we should have somebody that in the subject matter expert look at the stuff, look at the quality installation, and look at the equipment and test it to make sure it's functioning as proposed by the
So TUSA would validate the coverage map?
Yes, and they'll take part in the coverage testing as well as the acceptance and testing procedure.
Judge, I make the motion, we proceed as stated. Look, that's pretty smart, Lee. Pretty good, that's pretty
Go
good.
through his capabilities,
Well, and I have to say, he's been pretty generous with us with calling for stuff that
2 years.
yeah, and back and forth, and he only noticed at the beginning and this, at the end, I feel very good with that. Sheriff Duke, any questions, sir?
No, we're just very appreciative of, working with the court and getting this thing where it's at now. Thought we were gonna be using Campbell's soup cans here for a while, but it is showing a great improvement.
Well, I've got a couple of World War II field telephones that I found in some of my brother's stuff that my dad actually used for, I can't remember what it was, but they didn't have a phone system and they ran that wire between 2 locations, so you're more than welcome to
Well, that was a
those.
little different. You had to run that wire under fire most of the time too.
Works
It's
good
kinda
to
like tele-
turn the corner.
It's kind of like telegraph days. The Indians were pretty smart. They needed to tear the wires down on telegraph. The cavalry wouldn't show up, so. Yeah.
Well,
Appreciate it.
I've heard they're good for fishing too.
I don't know if y'all read it or not, inside this proposal, that statement by Nick Tusa, how he got into this business. Did y'all have to read that? It's pretty impressive, really. And I think it kind of sums up the theme of this court. One thing we don't ever want to be guilty of, and that is putting our deputies out on the streets with less than what they need to be safe. This is a step in that direction. And that's kind of Tusa's philosophy also, and that's why he's in this business. So it's a good move.
Okay. Any other comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey, a second by Commissioner Beecham. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. That's not really.
She had an emergency.
All right, before we turn the page then, we'll do that.
Judge,
Ma'am.
the child abuse proclamation, I didn't know about that one. This one is, the one that you have is for first step.
Oh, we got it.
You don't have the one?
No, I didn't.
You have to, supposed to brought it up here.
Oh,
Okay.
nobody brought it to me.
Do you have a copy of the one?
I do.
I can read that one.
Okay. You just give me a minute to print it off.
We'll do one more item real quick.
That is a good idea.
And then I'll try to be able to be smart enough to change the date.
We'll get one. She has it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when we do it here.
Yes, okay, thank you so much.
Okay, item 3 is discuss and consider take action to approve the A&B debit card limit increase from $7,500 to $15,000 for the training account. Jill, I guess this is just because of the multiple things we sometimes
Yeah,
put together.
this past month, we had 10 or 12 people on the road, and we can't get them home. The limit wasn't high enough, we can't go in and get it raised to get them home, and
Yeah.
so it was getting declined, so we need to raise that up so that we can get what we need.
I was in the middle of that with our auditor's office. We discussed what we could do. They're debit cards, they're not credit cards. So we only have X amount of money in there. We did do something we don't like to do, is we pay for some of the expenses on our training deal from our other accounts, which we have to reconcile all that and go back and clean all that stuff up. But we did it because auditor, told us we could. And anyway, we don't want to get caught in the same situation again. So that's why the sheriff is asking us to raise this limit so that they'll have the money to do what they need to do when they need to.
Okay. Is that a motion?
It is.
The same. Second. Is this the same?
Motion by Commissioner Harvey, second by Commissioner Watts. Any questions or comments, anyone in the audience? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There's 5-0.
It's the day.
My-
Mine was an old wooden one. How are you all?
Good, how are you?
Good, come on. Yeah, all right. Well, make me look good. Well, it's okay. All right. Gosh, you gotta be careful saying that after Joe Biden's problems. And somebody dropped their head.
Don't touch one on the shoulder, whatever you do.
Y'all move out a little bit. Just, hold on, touch me. Okay. All right, let's do this right.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yes, sir. Proclamation Child Abuse Prevention Month in 2019. Whereas every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment, free from threat of dangers and harmful effects of child abuse and neglect. And whereas Texas children are our future, and child abuse is one of our state's most complex and ongoing problems, and whenever one child is abused or neglected, all Texans suffer. And whereas 609 children have been confirmed cases of child abuse in Wichita County in the past year, whereas local children's organizations as well as individuals and other interest organizations have come together to develop a program of prevention and awareness through contact with parents, teachers, caregivers, and children to help the community find solutions to this problem. And whereas this month we emphasize the importance of understanding the devastating problem of child abuse and neglect, and the importance of all residents of Wichita County to be involved in the protection of our children and supporting parents in raising and nurturing their children in their own homes. And now therefore be it resolved that the Commissioners Court of Wichita County, Texas does hereby proclaim the month of April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and encourages all citizens of Wichita County to stand united against child abuse and neglect, and to join in the dedicating of their agencies to cherishing Wichita County's children and helping them grow free from neglect, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Signed this first day of April by the Wichita County Commissioners Court. Ladies, we just appreciate it so much. Why don't you all each introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about the agency or what you do.
I'm Christy Fontaine, the Program Director at CASA.
I'm Janet Jackson. I'm the Community Initiative Specialist for CPS.
Camille Schmader, Investigation Supervisor at Child Protective Services.
I'm Alyssa Johnston. I'm a Case Supervisor at CASA.
What you all do is the front line. So both of you, I mean, your two agencies work in coordination. You know, and it just amazes me the positive things that you all bring out of the mayhem you have to deal with. That's what's sad. Where often the abuser is a family member or a neighbor or someone that children trust. You all have to clean that up and try to raise them to be different than what they were surrounded by. Did you want to get a picture of us?
I've gotten one, but I'd like to get one where you're actually all looking at me.
Oh, okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all very much. And when they get that, we'll get framed and signed.
Yeah, I'll get it.
All right. Hey, good to see you.
Judd is the authority and anybody can.
Just across the river, yeah.
This is how we get it.
Should we ever?
It's an air deal.
All right, item number 4 is discuss, consider, take action to approve a supervisor and probate clerk in addition to Lori Bohan, county clerk, to attend the probate academy May 7th through May 10th, 2019 in Lubbock, Texas, with expenses to be paid from 100.403.4304, travel out of county, and registration fees to be paid from the judicial training fund. That fund is the fees paid in probate go to create that fund, which is similar to some of the other funds, some of the training funds that the sheriff receives and others. So I'd like to ask the court to take action on that. Thank you.
Second.
She's ready to jump,
Did you want to say anything?
No, it just comes out of Judicial Education Fund. This is something that we go to every year.
Okay, well, our little policy we thought was such a good idea that we're spending, this is the second or third week where we've asked it. but we'll get it right.
I mean, I didn't know, since this doesn't come out of my fund.
Yeah.
No, that I needed to
But those of us that
do that.
like before I got on that committee, when I would go, then I would draw money out of that, but we didn't have a policy that said you had to budget those, so we probably need to look at the other county level judges and make sure we expand that fund next year to budget for travel out. All right, any other comments on this item? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, ma'am. Item 5 is discuss, consider, take action to amend the current travel policy, section 2.22-2, to add a paragraph above: the department head shall not authorize travel. And it's as follows: elected officials and department heads must submit a projected travel budget during the next year's budget preparation. Travel for conferences and schools that develop outside the budget expense prediction may be scheduled using other funds within the department's current budget. Should no other funds be available for travel or for such conferences, must be submitted to Commissioner's Court prior to the travel. Any reimbursement from an outside source of the expenses of any conference registration or travel will be credited back to that department's travel budget, which I think Ms. Gann answered some questions you had about some of the others. So, Marlon, Ms. Kennedy, you all travel and then you get reimbursement. So that makes that clear, so that will be credited back.
We don't get that money, Meredith, unless you travel, right? The money doesn't come in and for us to spend, it's only sent after you travel.
Right. When anybody in our office goes to a TDCAA conference, they give them a reimbursement form at the conference.
I see.
So you have to have been registered and be at the conference to get it.
Okay.
And then we turn that in at the conference and they bill the auditor.
Okay.
Or they refund the auditor.
I see.
Part of what I thought we were trying to correct in this,
Jeff?
yes, oh, Deb, yeah, thank you. Okay. The auditor offered some clarification. Let me see if this takes care of where I was heading with this. The department head shall not authorize travel if insufficient funds remain in the travel line item to pay the anticipated cost. The department head may petition the Commissioner's Court for a line item transfer within the department. In other words, what we want to have this do is not what the way it's in here, which means you just go do that and figure it's going to get covered. It comes, and then we're doing it proactively and not reactively, because it might be you don't have the funds there. The other thing that
So if we have a $5,000 postage budget and we are out of travel funds, we can't use that postage budget without coming to Commissioner's Court to use that, even though we don't have a line item budget.
Right. But the idea is, why do we put $5,000 in your postage? In other words, part of this is to help establish priorities and say. Now, the other thing we did change in this, okay, I listed my office was going to attend the blue conference, the green conference, and the yellow conference. Well, the red conference came up, and it has more germane training for that, so I could put it, I don't have to stick to those first three. I can put that one in there.
Right.
So, but if you're going to exceed your travel budget, or you used it for the ones you designated, and as in the case of Ms. Bohannon, a different conference, you all did on elections, there was one, was it last year? There was some. Okay, but I was, anyhow, that came up outside, but it was needed changes following the changes in law and policy with the state. So she came to the court and asked for that money. And it was probably used two ways. One, it said take from whatever you have existing unused, and then the second, balance be from general fund contingency. So, but it is, this does say if you can't do it within that, you've got to come.
If you can't do it within your line item of travel.
Right.
Then it needs to be, then that motion needs to be amended if that's what y'all want.
But
which is not the way this reads.
Well, no, it's not. And my problem with that is that when Deb wants to move something from one line item to another, she just sends us a sheet and asks us to move it. She doesn't have to come to Commissioner's Court to ask y'all to do that.
If it's within the major category.
Right,
The informal budget then.
right. This is major category informal budget. So why can't I use another line item to use into my travel budget? Because I want to send somebody to conference if I still have the money in my budget. My point is that Deb's office is allowed to do that without coming to y'all, but we have to come to y'all to do that. And I don't understand that.
They do it in, you know, this may be a better question for people to answer, but my general thing on when they've done that, they stayed within those categories. You know, this one, you've already exceeded that budget.
You've exceeded the travel line item.
Yeah, the travel line item.
But we do not have a line item budget. We have general categories.
Correct.
Mark and I were talking that we wish we didn't have all these line items. Develop a budget for that department, you get X amount of dollars, spend it wisely. You're in charge, you're the elected official, do what you gotta do.
And that's exactly what, I mean, you're talking about, like this year, in this year's budget, we have a budget that we didn't even create. I mean, it was from our predecessor. And one of the major things that John wants to do is training. And so for us to be able to send people, like Becca maybe to a second seminar on employment law and to the TDCA civil seminar, we're not gonna have enough travel budget, I guarantee you, for the conferences, because training was not a priority in that office. And so we have to come to you every time we wanna do that. But we have money in other line items that have never been used and aren't being used. Now, I understand for next year's budget, we need to look at those things. But I guess my issue is that when we're projected to be a shortfall in one line item, Deb moves it all the time. But we're having to come back to y'all to get that permission. And that's micromanaging the elected's budget that he ought to be able to spend as long as he's staying within his general categories.
But we have, I guess where I'm coming from on this, it sure seems like we don't plan. When we just say there's a pile of money and I can spend anything within that, there needs to be some forecasting and some reality and not just I'll do whatever I want to do.
I agree, but you're talking about an office that's given this court back more than $200,000 for the last 4 years.
Does that mean?
So we're not being not forecasting.
But was that over budgeted $200,000 a year, or was there real?
Or was it not used because they had to come to Commissioner's Court to ask for it?
In their case, it's kind of hard to budget murder trials that you don't know is coming.
And expert fees.
Well, we had to do planning to get to a figure to ask for it in the first place. We did some kind of planning.
You may have. I'm not sure everybody has. Yeah.
Actually, you're trying to pour cement, and what's the purpose of a budget is strictly a swag, and that's all it is.
Well, but that
and
swag has
and
to
the
be
department head is responsible. If there's a supreme blowout, yes, he needs to be brought before the Commissioner's Court and by God told what's what. Otherwise, we operate within our budget. My little bitty office, we've sent money back every time. I've never even gotten a gold star.
Just say, don't we have some?
You don't get gold stars for over budgeting.
You can look at your previous 2 years' trends, budget off of that, plus what you're projecting, what your project projected are for the next year, and make a pretty reasonable projection. And then you bring that to the Commissioner's Court and say, hey, this is my trend, these are the projects I'm doing.
Here's how much money.
Here's how much it's gonna take. And then you stay within the category. It's not rocket science.
Ms. Cootie, to answer the point that you all are in a different position because the previous elected official didn't turn in a proactive budget. If we all,
she did we did a good job. I mean, she
once you
wasn't
let
gonna But the training budget.
Let me finish.
Lord.
Okay, the proactive budget, which would include training or maybe some other things, there is nothing wrong with him saying, here's some revisions and submitting that one-time basis and saying, I need to make these changes.
But we don't know until those come out.
Okay.
And that's the problem. We just got the conference on the labor and employment last week. At the end of the year, there may be some financial crimes thing that comes up that would be beneficial for somebody to go to. I mean, CLE is all over the place for attorneys.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult in a budget season of July of 2018 to know what's gonna be available in 2019 because none of those calendars are out. TDCAA's calendar is not even out.
You know, that's funny because they've got to get, what drives all those is usually what place they're gonna have it and rooms.
But they don't
available.
release those schedules that early.
You'll know what courses are gonna be offered at,
Yeah.
at what conference.
Well, and then secondly, to compound it, is both Meredith and Jill's group are receiving reimbursement funds that we don't have any idea until the next quarter how they affected the
Right.
budget. So,
Well, we were concerned that sometimes weren't getting back in there, so that's what.
and it may go to a different fund, or this will help clean those up to go back to the fund. But I'm kind of like Meredith. I think that as long as they've identified that there are items to pull from, then we can do those. I would assume, Curtis, that's a change form like we would do. The department head receives those in those offices too, right? And they would make that
That's right.
allocation internally?
Yeah, most of the time, what, we do those transfers in a major category from one line to another. All I can add is that this has been travel, I mean, this has been policy for the last several years. As long as I've been doing the budget position, it's been policy that if you pull from another line that's not travel, that you have to come to Commissioner's Court, and that's been an exception to the other rules, the other lines, so. But yeah, we do transfer from one line to the other freely within the major categories.
And a lot of it comes down to cash flow, guys. If you've got no money left in your line, your budget for travel, and you pull that out of a different category, if it's a sizable amount, that could be money in that category that was going to be used in the fourth quarter rather than the second quarter. And Bob Hampton does an excellent job of keeping our money invested, but yet we have to continually transfer money to cover the checks that are written. So it's always good to know when you're making those changes, and that helps us realize what's going on and help manage the cash flow of this county. It's real important that we do that. It's not about necessarily micromanaging anything else. It's just that you want to know when that money's flowing out so that you can do a better job managing your cash flow. It's an important part of it.
But along with that, we don't fully tax to pay the budget. We use reserve funds because there are so many variables, i.e. regularly 200,000 in the DA's budget that comes back. But that budget was probably only 80% truly funded. And I want to be sure people don't misinterpret. We do fully fund the budget, but it's not all funded with tax money. It's funded with a lot of reserve money that's used to do that rather than taxing for it because of the major things that we don't. We put in money for capital murder when you all project that. We put in extra money for indigent health care, jail care, and those things because we don't have precise limits on what's going to happen. So it's trying to find that even point. I would ask the court in this case to adopt the information submitted by the auditor. We'll work with that.
Judge, I've been reading this 4 or 5 times, and I think this actually is the verbiage that we need to submit.
Well, that one allows them to do that without coming to the court on using up funds in the.
Right, if it's within their budget, if there is no money, then they should come to Commissioner's Court.
Okay, but the thing that Barry just said is, okay, this is April, and I'm gonna ask for additional travel money to take out of my lines that I have not looked at what is my spending normally in a year. Am I gonna really have that much money projected to be left over that I'm now asking for? I don't think that goes into it, and our software system is not that friendly. Now, when we get the new system online, you can do a whole lot better job of doing that. But I think you're gonna find up having at the end of the year, people having to have money transferred in because they didn't project what was gonna be spent the other 3 quarters.
But Judge, I don't see how coming to Commissioner Court's gonna change that scenario from happening 1 iota.
Well, I think if it's brought through the auditor and look at it, they'll run the projections of what you have done.
Well, what is the cost usually on a conference? About $1,500, $2,000?
Yeah. But how many people
Travel,
send it?
travel,
Well, if that costs you not sending
Hotel.
any, 1, maybe 2.
I'm just saying, how much is it? $500 registration, $250?
Three to five, 2 to 5.
250 to 500, yeah.
And then you're looking at 3 nights in a motel, $150 a night, and travel. So,
Times 3 or times 4 people or
okay,
whatever.
so I don't think at any given time that we're not gonna be liquid enough to cover that. That's not a tremendous amount of money.
Well, it depends on the side of the budget.
Well, when you talk about Bob not having liquid money to pay bills, that's such a small, I like the verbiage that the way it's presented in the agenda, which allows the department head or elected official to use some funds in some of their other lines. But if there's not any funds in the other lines and they need to come and get it out of general fund contingency, then they would need to come to court.
Then does that mean they over budgeted in those lines?
I think everybody takes a wag at every line. Like fuel, we put in $35,000 for fuel, and that was when fuel was $2.50 a gallon, and it went up to $4 a gallon, and it's a wag. I mean, you have to adjust. I mean, if you're asking if every elected official nails it right on the penny, they don't. There always is some fallout because they try to do their budget so that they can have some kind of contingency whenever things go sideways. So,
What do you, excuse me, if you had 25,000 one year for fuel, and let's say you use that and it's $2.50 a gallon, all I do is say, okay, that represents, you know, 1,000
gallons.
And so then I would take the new fuel figure and come up with a swag instead of a wag.
Fundamentally, that's how the budget is put together.
Well, the auditor is asking us to reconcile this before we take action. Do we need to table this until we can have a discussion and get the verbiage right?
Well, the question is, do you want the elected official to be able to use money from another line within their budget to pay for something, travel school that came up without having to come to Commissioner's Court? And if they come to Commissioner's Court and it's a needed class, we're gonna tell them they can go. We're not gonna say, oh, no, you don't need to know about financial crimes. You don't need to know about that. No, we're not gonna do that. So it's just taking something else off of our plate that they're gonna manage anyway. I mean, that's why they're elected. That's why they do their job so well. I mean, they don't need us. I don't feel like they need us telling them whether they can go to school or not. They can spend their money, spend it wisely. I feel.
What we do need to tell them, because we are responsible for the bottom line expenditure of the county, is you need to try to live within your budget. And we then said, you come through here, and I agree with you, very few of those have ever been turned down. But I'm just saying, I think that's where our responsibility is, and our place is not too crowded for that.
How many departments do not turn money back?
61.
Well, yeah, that
It breaks even though, don't you, Will?
Overtime.
yeah,
It's all overtime.
Jail.
yeah.
So every other department pretty much is turning money back. So we're living within our budgets every year.
Yeah. But that's also because there's been some fiscal control, I think. Not a great deal. But I think should be some emphasis on maybe a little more planning and looking at, to try to get into that budget, so we're not sitting there with inflated budgets that then you flow money back and forth. I think it ought to go by what you're doing, by what's been historical.
I think the outcome's gonna be the same no matter what we do, it's just how you're gonna handle it, really. I don't think we're gonna change the outcome here, so.
I've got one question. The budget is always passed, generally, I used to be in August, now I know it's about September. It's passed, we know exactly the whole thing's done. Why is it we don't get our budget, not like officially get our budget until like 3 weeks before we get our budget request for the new budget call? Why can't we get it in December or November so we know exactly how much money we have in there? I mean, we should know it in September, but we're blind for 3 months. We are blind to exactly what we have unless we go on the phone and have to call people. And sometimes it's just difficult to know exactly what you got. I mean, we know you're gonna have enough to fly something with.
And I can't remember, there was a delay this year in getting that posted.
Judge, I can tell you that in the last 10 years I've been in this office, it's been that way.
Sheriff Doble, when we go through the budget with you line item by line item, we agree as we do that together as a group, what we're gonna do in that line item. When we write that down in your presence, we don't go say, oh, we ain't giving it that much, and scratch that out, we'll do that. So when you leave the table, you should be very confident in what your budget's gonna look like. Because after we've agreed and talked about how many vehicles we're gonna buy, or,
Exactly right.
you know,
That's very true.
that.
We do that, we do keep with that. But it's still, there's some, you know, I'm not speaking for the sheriff, I don't know what every commissioner has the same questions. There's a blind spot there, they don't know exactly what they had, or if there is that money, you know, by the first quarter of just about, you know, that we don't have the budgets.
Okay, we can work on that. But I agree with what the commissioner said, we do have your printout, we do go down it, and we make adjustments there.
With you, or with whoever.
I mean, you have the opportunity to be there, but we can certainly easily give you that final, that we're gonna submit to the auditors on this.
And Willie's just been tremendous with the sheriff's office, I know they verify some things for us. I know he scratches his head too every once in a while, but we all have to do that, you know, with the budget to be out. I appreciate everything Willie does too, because he's always a go-to guy.
He is the go-to guy.
He is, he really is.
Absolutely.
But I just wanted to ask that because I know other people have asked us the same thing, we have the problem. I just thought I'd better ask you, well, that's from other people sitting there.
Easiest way on this, if you have money in your line, if you have money in your travel budget, you don't have to come to court. Once you've exceeded your travel budget, you have to come to court for any approval above and beyond what you have budgeted. Doesn't make any difference what conference you go to, up until you run out of budget.
The travel line itself.
Yeah, that would be, that's the cleanest way to do it.
I know, but I guess my purpose, Mark, is for what end? I mean, why are you wanting them to come to court? So what do we add to the equation? They come to court.
That's kind of my point.
They come to court and they pose their question, and unless we scrutinize their lines at that time, I mean.
No, we're not ever given an auditor's report and say, oh, well, by the way, they don't have any money left in any of these lines.
No. Really, at that point, it's between Meredith and the auditor as to which line that needs to pull out of, but for us to enter into that just complicates it, I would think.
I would think it would just be one of those gold sheets that we get whenever we need to move money, you know, within, I don't want to hear, what do you want to do? You know, the auditor selected, yes or no, or where do you want to, I mean, to me, it would be the same,
Well, I don't scrutinize those because I feel like they know better where to pull. Curtis just did one for me Friday and had to check that was on something we hadn't bought in a while, and he made the recommendation to where it comes from, and I didn't want to question.
If all we need is to be aware of the travel, why can't we just have a travel form submitted to our office and we're going to this conference and no,
just notification.
This is the cost of the conference, this is the hotel cost. Be pretty similar to what I was used to at the city. We
Well,
entered in
and
a conference request.
if you had a year's worth of those, they'd sure make for a good budget. And the next follow-up, I mean, at least kind of give you a guidance. It just kind of keeps some formality to it, I guess.
Yeah, if we're worried about tracking, making sure everybody stays within their.
I actually think that our elected officials care about that as much as we do. And I don't, you know, they wouldn't be elected by the people if the people didn't have the faith in them. So I think we should have the faith in them also.
I don't disagree, but some of, we have appointed officials in the mix as well, so.
Department heads.
Department heads.
Deb just sent me a text that said part of the reason is we don't have that is we don't have grants closed out until 2 months into the year is why they don't post the other. Because our software, once again, when we get the new software, we'll have a lot more flexibility. But that's part of that, getting that done. I can't believe somebody designed a system like that, but she said that the sheriff was right. We've been doing this since 1996 that way. So, but what we can do to help that out in those cases is we can give you a budget that we've gone through and marked, you know, the columns out there proposed and approved, then we do that and help that out. Okay.
Judge?
Ma'am.
Is your mic on? Alexis, can you hear me?
Unless it turned off. No, it says it's on.
Is the mute button on?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know, I'll share.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we accept item 5 as written in the agenda. And that would give our department heads and our elected officials the right to move funds within their budget for travel if needed, without having to come to Commissioner's Court.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Judge. And then we can, everybody will look budget, which is on top of us, to go ahead and maybe put some more detailed, not in a complicated manner, but spreadsheet that involved some, the problem is so many times we don't know, but at least some kind of qualification to our travel slash work session or convention meetings, and we'll have that to build off of, see if it even turns into any kind of problem.
Any other comments? Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey, a second by Commissioner Watts to accept the item as stated on the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 4-1. All right, thank you. Item number 6 is discuss, consider, or take action to amend the current travel policy, section 222-3, meals, by amending the second sentence of the 9th paragraph entitled rental vehicle gasoline fuel as follows. Prior to returning the rental vehicle, at the conclusion of the rental, the traveler must refill the gas fuel tank to the level required by the rental company, and it is suggested that the odometer reading be written on the fuel receipts.
At the time of fuel.
Yeah.
Oh, do we rent a lot of cars? I mean, is that happening? Oh, okay.
Judge, can we take, add
At the time of.
at the time of, that way that you can say, oh, you drove 12 miles, for the gas stations in their part turned it in, I mean,
Yeah.
that all could be considered full.
Yeah. Well, they tell you, anymore, when you rent it, it says how far what it is. I'm always curious, who decided what 7/8 of a fuel tank is? Yeah, okay. Any other comments on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Waller, second by Commissioner Watts to approve the item with the addition at the time of fueling, for writing the odometer reading down. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 5-0. Item 7, discuss, consider, take action to approve parking receipt quote number 5226 in the amount of $3,050 for preventative maintenance with the judge box controller, to be paid by transfer from $104.90, $3,000 supplies to appropriate lines as determined by the county auditor. Ms. Bohannon?
This is maintenance that we learned about 2 months ago that needs to be done every 3 years. And they didn't tell us that when we bought the equipment, so it's budgeted for, but it does need to be done because we do have several of the JVCs that are going down.
Okay, and does this include the batteries too, for those that need to be replaced, or those individually charged?
The batteries would be individually charged, I'm sure. This is for internal battery. There's an internal battery, you have the battery blocks, and then you have those internal batteries. This is
Right.
for those that it's going in and doing maintenance on. But it's just the JVCs, it's not the East Lanes.
Okay.
And when he talked to me, I thought we were doing the East Lanes also, but that's not what he said, so.
Okay.
I have to check that out. But we do have, I mean, getting ready for the city school election, we have several of the batteries that we're gonna have to replace. And I try to order batteries, 4 or 5 batteries because they're $36 a piece. When I order, but we're gonna have to be ordering quite a few.
That previous equipment, batteries were in the hundreds, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
So these are
okay, 36
cheaper.
sounds real good.
These are cheaper, but
So is this gonna be an ongoing annual maintenance item that we need to budget for in the future,
Triangle.
or?
right, yes. I will put it in there now that I know.
Now that
his-
we know when you do it.
Yes. So, but, I mean, I don't know if the league has ever gotten back with you, what was anything's being done on the new.
No.
Motion to approve, Judge.
Second.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Have a motion by Commissioner Waller, second by Commissioner Beecham, to approve the item as stated. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. 8 is receive update on personnel policy manual revisions from Amanda Conley and Becca Scuffin. Ta-da.
Yes, Judge, I'd ask, both Becca and Amanda to give us an update. As you know, we've been working on the revision of the HR policy manual for quite some time. And it's nearing completion, but I wanted to give an update on where we're at, so you get the thing finalized.
Becca and myself have been working on the policy, all the many changes from all the different people involved, from the auditor's office to our office. TAC was here, judge, commissioners. We've got all of that put together. TAC policy, there's a couple more that we're still tweaking to make sure that they fit with everything that goes on within our county, because obviously TAC is a different entity than we are. We're working on some of those, and then Becca had some correspondence last week with the auditor's office that they aren't quite finished with some of their policies that they were rewriting that are more specific to their things they handle. So once we receive those can go in, we can finish the renumbering and moving around that we need to do, but otherwise everything is basically rewritten.
It's shaping up to be a much cleaner policy and much easier to
Easier to read.
understand, easier to read.
400 pages.
Yeah, at least.
No, we're under 100 pages, that's
Yeah.
like the.
No, it's not an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
you know.
it's real many.
Yeah, it's for the average, for the supervisor to be able to take and the average employee to be able to take and read it and understand it.
The redundancy and all that has been taken care of, so.
You know, this sounds funny, but the index is so important. Our supervisors can go to the index page and find what they need and go straight to it. They'll use it.
Well, also our SharePoint, I've started loading some forms and things like that that Human Resources uses, like injury reports and FMLA requests and stuff like that. Those are on SharePoint now. And once we're done with the policy manual, we're going to talk to IT about getting it set up to where you'll be able to go in there and just look by, what are you looking for? You know, what chapter you know about discipline and it would be right there.
When you get that done, Amanda, would you go by the precinct and sit down with Sam and Don and just orientate them on that? Because they don't even know where to look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can hold a precinct,
Go
Coach Bridge safety meeting or.
Yeah, we can do it on the same meeting, this would be good.
When the policy's finally completed.
Yep.
So any idea when to expect it completed?
Waiting on the auditor's office copies right now for some of them it sounds like they may have them, and other ones it sounds like they hadn't even started rewriting them yet. So once they're finished and they send it to us, it's not going to take too long to get the bring done.
Well, here's the danger, is the auditor's office is slammed. And it seems like all the time they're covered up doing something. So let's just say within 30 days, we're gonna publish what we have. And if you want to change, which it can be a living document, it can be changed after we publish it. But instead of just waiting on the auditor's office, let's put something out there for the employees to start using.
We've done that once before. That's where we've got an unfunctioning manual right now.
Well, that's where we ended up with multiple different copies.
Yeah.
Nobody knew which one went to what, but the
That
main
doesn't have
thing was-
anything to do with what I'm talking about.
Well,
Nothing.
I mean, Meredith did help too, saying that all of it's gonna come through one place. So now, all the different versions, even the auditor's office may be writing parts, and Becca may be writing parts, and I may be writing parts, but getting it all together, it's all coming out of my office by the time it's done, so.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah,
The parts that the auditor's office is are the benefits parts, right?
there's a few different parts that they have, yeah.
And the problem is publishing what we have may conflict with what we're doing with benefits now. And so we're gonna write that whole section, and they need to get it done so that we can get it in the policy manual. Because we don't wanna publish a policy manual with the ones that are in there that we haven't looked at or revised or fixed, because they're just not right anymore. And that's been our problem with our current living document.
So we'll visit with them and then try to ask them if they can set a timeline so that we can actually complete something.
As soon as they can get them to us, the rest of it's basically done, just waiting for the, like, you know, this chapters and the sub-chapters to be numbered. And
Curtis, could you follow up and just kind of see where we're at on that?
I'll let her know.
Okay, and just, we'd like to get it done, put it to bed so we can publish it for our employees.
The benefits deal almost needs to be an addendum because it's subject to change every budget section.
Every policy in there is subject to change.
There's a few
Not
different
like that
sections
one.
that had things changed, or that this piece now, okay, well, there'll be an appendix at the end that actually goes, that we can change out a lot easier than actually changing the whole policy.
Yeah, we looked at a lot of those issues like that and broke them into appendixes, so they can be amended easily. But since so many of the policies interact with others, it needs to be adopted as a whole, not in piece. Because where we got into last time, we've got this massive document that conflicts in multiple places throughout. So.
And I would just add that the parts that are being rewritten are known issues. We want to get everything we know is a problem that Michelle identified as a problem resolved and have a clean, complete policy.
Becca, 99% of all company policy is written from hindsight.
That's true.
Yeah. We did this, that didn't work. Don't do that no more.
As well as laws and budgets and everything else, you get right down to it.
But I do appreciate everyone's effort on trying to get us complete with this, and hopefully we can finally put it to bed by the end of the spring at least. If Curtis could see what a timeline will
See,
see.
I haven't been part of this whole process, I don't know what's going on.
I've been talking to
Linda.
Linda.
Thank you.
All right. Just actually send out an email.
Okay, number 9 is receive an update on the law enforcement center project. Commissioner Beecham.
Couple of things that took place this week. One was we did go ahead and approve the addition of 2 foundation piers to expand the evidence driveway. Those piers were at a cost of $27.30 each. That will, by doing that, by adding those 2 piers, we had to make a decision last week because they were finishing the final piers, and we had to get that done before the truck left and no longer available to us. So we did make that decision, go ahead and do that. We're still awaiting the final cost on what that will be to put that additional square footage back into the project. Secondly, we're working with the city of Wichita Falls on an MOU to repair the streets that are being damaged as a result of our construction activity we had.
Are you referring to Professional Drive?
No.
No.
What's
Production.
Production Drive.
Production, Sprague.
That road was horrendous before we ever started.
You know, but it's become.
That's because they didn't maintain the road.
It's horrible.
If they had maintained the road, it'd still be fine.
Well,
I understand.
Okay, there's gotta be construction problems. When you find rebar, that the concrete has worn off and the rebar showing, something's wrong there from the get-go. Now, finding it on the
I hope
bottom.
that MOU doesn't mean that we're gonna pay to fix the road.
We're working with the city of Wichita Falls, particularly on a couple of roads where we will split some costs, but we're actually having,
They could probably repair that road out of some of our permit money that we pay, which was really high. For one government entity to charge another government entity.
I agree.
Well,
that
that's
the
the
same
school.
taxpayers have to pay.
The school district widened Hatton Road coming from, from 281 out to just past
It
there.
abruptly ends just past the school.
Yeah.
Gotta go till about the oil.
If X company started a construction project off of your Y road and destroyed your road, would you not look for them to have some skin in the game to repair your road back?
Well, my road was,
We have done that in the past.
We've tried.
before the job started, and my road was, let's say, substantially lacking. And then they went in there, I would say, you know, the damage wouldn't have occurred if my road had been a better road, because the thing was smashed all to pieces.
And Commissioner, I talked to Kenley Hageland about what we were talking about doing, you know, in normal fashion. They tried to put it all on us, and I said, no, what we've actually already agreed to with your city people is we're going to do some temporary repairs along
Production.
production, just to make it passable during construction, because we know it's gonna continue to deteriorate. But once the construction's done, then we're gonna have to sit down and talk about what happens to production, because that's their road.
Yeah.
They got a facility on the back end of it that they wanna sell, the 4A board wants to sell. I mean, I think all of us can get in
And
and
as
try to figure
taxpayers.
out what's gonna happen with that road. But during construction, we need to be able to, like Mark said, you know, last week, we had a major issue with it. We just need to be able to have the authority to go in and make some temporary repairs and get the road working again.
Yeah, we had a hazardous situation that needed to be addressed immediately, and I didn't have the ability to just go out there and address it myself without any.
I took pictures of that road before they came in and put that fill on top of it. Looking at it and the rebar that's in there, looks like that rebar is laid in 18-inch squares, and it's 3/8 inch rebar, and probably 4-inch thick concrete base. There's not a lot of rebar there, but we had to cut the rebar because some of it was sticking straight up, been hit by a truck, pulled up.
Yeah.
But they came in and put that fill on top of it, gunk on top of it. Well, over the weekend, over Friday, I guess, and Saturday, then hauling the trucks out, have worked those chunks of concrete now up above the,
They're still running the trucks down. They were,
Yeah.
I met with Joe Rycloff,
well, I wasn't here
Safety
Friday,
officer.
but we had a report over the weekend that, and there was a piece of that concrete that no longer had the rebar around it because it had been cut, because it all slowly worked its way up. Well, for an 18-inch square piece of that concrete had worked itself up like this, and had to be pulled out of the, to get it off the road to keep it from being hit.
Thursday
by a
afternoon,
vehicle.
there were, well, the big trucks coming up, yeah.
I know Thursday and Friday morning there were, but as of Friday afternoon, they should have ceased driving down.
They're supposed to go back up.
They're supposed to go down
Spray, okay, well, I wasn't here Friday, I was out of town Friday, but I know we got the report over the weekend that that chunk of concrete was up, and there's a picture of it, and it's sticking up at an angle. It'd been rolled over by enough heavy trucks that it's worked itself up out of that small gravel they put on top of it.
We did meet with them Friday afternoon. Because of the safety concerns of that road with
Well, they have to pull out
3 foot chunks.
off the dirt off the big mound, go to the surface road, go back up the Fisher, back across.
Right, around the circle. Around the circle back.
You text not to block off that first lane, one-way traffic going back, anyway. Off of Sprague. I can tell you, some of them truck drivers, they're not gonna make that long loop around for that little short drive back to Quincy. I just know how those guys are.
If you look at the total mileage difference, it's not that great because they're going all the way down Hammond, all the way up Hatton, all the way back up McKinney. It's about the same distance circle.
Also, you make a picture.
Yeah. It's just more natural to do that loop. Then they're not tearing up my roads. You know, the TxDOT roads are a little bit beefier than what we have out in the county and what the city has.
What was that building out there, Stanley Tools?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Stanley Tool makes tools that get put on trucks, get shipped out. Why would anybody pour a 4-inch concrete road?
Okay, I don't think it was 4, I bet you it was 5, but it should have probably been 6. But the rebar, instead of laying on the bottom, which often it was pulled too close to the top. And maybe they did put 4 inches there.
It's a 50-year-old concrete road that hasn't had any maintenance on it in 30 years.
Well, it did
3
chip
inches
seal on
rebar
it,
in
and
there
it just shattered, cracked everywhere.
But the MOU at this point is to allow us to do a little bit of reactive maintenance on it and to work with them to fix Quincy.
We don't have an MOU with the city of Wichita Falls.
We have multiple MOUs, but not on this
Not on
specific.
this,
No.
They'll want to draft it for the specific roads that we're talking about.
I was just doing an MOU for the city of Wichita Falls, but it's not so specific, so we have to do it over and over and over again. When we do a temporary street repair MOU or something with the city. Make it broader so that it works in different places.
For more often than we have it come up, I'm gonna say I'll stay specific. I mean, we really, over the history of the time, we just haven't had one of the deals, and I don't wanna get one that's so general, kinda like this jail thing that is not the best written contract I've ever seen.
Well, and I would hesitate in that they tend to start saying, well, that's your responsibility, not ours, if we have something real general, so. Well, we gave you the authority to go fix that road.
Well, I wanna give them the authority to go fix Bacon Switch Road.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're gonna.
Oh my, I get calls twice a week.
Right now, we're trying to work with them and preserve what's still preservable on the roadways out there and come back and repair what we've actually tore up. There's some things that we have some culpability, especially on Sprague. Where we've taken we tore curbing up that would not have been done through normal wear and tear. We have 2 panels that are completely gone beyond normal wear and tear, the same way with production. 2 panels that are damaged beyond normal wear and tear. Quincy is about a third of Quincy is almost undrivable because of Chad Wilson has agreed to come in and zip that at their expense. Precinct 1 will work to stabilize that, and the city will come back and chip seal it. So that's what we're planning right now. It's thus the need for the MOU. So just trying to be good neighbors and share. If we tear something up, we need to.
Kenley indicated that he wants something signed this week. I don't know if he's drafting that, or generally they do, but I suspect he may expect me to do it, but we'll see.
Okay. You plan on calling him or something, find out which one of you is responsible?
I'll email him and find out.
Oh, I thought you was doing it. I thought you was doing it.
Other than those items, the project's continuing on, making good progress, final time, and staying in budget, so.
Where are we on our critical remaining work? Red, first page, foundations.
Foundations, we have one shaft that we're in argument over right now with HOK engineers. It is in conflict with an existing sewer line that has been abandoned. It was the original sewer line that fed our Sprague facility. It is in close proximity to where the shaft is going to be drilled. It's 8-inch line. The engineers are not wanting to allow them to drill through the 8-inch line or through it. They're wanting to cap around it, which adds a great expense. And
what is the justification?
Reduce friction. Reduce friction on the hole. So the proposal's been to extend the hole by a foot. Waiting to hear back from the engineers whether that's acceptable. It's common practice.
Okay. You're drilling a pier.
Yeah.
And adjacent to or right on top of?
It's within proximity. They don't know until they drill it. You can't, there's nothing to locate sewer line.
Is it a sewer line off of a septic tank?
No, it's the old city sewer line that fed the our Sprague facility. It's since been abandoned.
Okay.
We're using the new system that's just been installed.
Let me get back on task. It's not perforated.
No.
It doesn't saturate the ground. Then why? Well, what is the reason for changing the standard pier? What?
You have to ask the engineer that question, which has been asked of them by everybody. But we have an engineer, a civil engineer on the project that does not want to sign off on the pier.
It's common friction.
Yeah, friction. It reduces the friction, whatever. I'm not a civil engineer, I'm not gonna pretend to be.
I guess I would think if you had some concern about that pipe, I'd pump it full of
Concrete.
Yeah.
And we may miss it altogether. We just won't know until we drill it. We may hit a 1/4 inch of it, we may hit it square center.
Well, how does friction hurt us? How is friction bad?
They want more.
Lack of friction,
Lack of
not
friction.
friction, is what holds the pier up and down.
I guess they think, Lee, that if it got into that pipe and they poured it, run down the pipe both ways till it.
Which should help. I mean, if you filled up the 8-inch pipe.
Y'all aren't entertained by this?
It's your sewer.
No, it doesn't work anymore.
We heard friction, we don't, it doesn't work anymore.
It's
That's why we never
abandoned.
go dig the thing up, it's an abandoned line, get it out of the way.
It's a long abandoned.
I think I just leave it there and drill out.
Drill right through it.
It's my judge.
Which is the standard way to handle these things, you just drill right through it. If it was still being used, you would cap over it, you could do 2 piers on either side, and essentially bridge over it.
Yeah.
But
When they drill in the piers, they're getting, it's limestone out there buried. We had problems with all that.
I know about limestone.
So when they drill the piers, they're going down to good solid stuff.
They're hitting rock.
Yeah. If they want to make the piers a foot bigger in diameter,
No, the proposal right now is to add an additional foot to the bottom of the
What it
pier,
looks like.
make it deeper to compensate for that 8-inch loss.
1 foot deeper.
1 foot deeper, instead of capping over, building 2 piers and a bridge essentially over the 8-inch line that may or may not be in the middle of the hole.
So if they drill down and they drill through the line and they pour concrete, it's in a sleeve, isn't it? Do they sleeve it also?
Well, a lot of them, but they could actually sleeve that one. And that would eliminate that concern, I would think.
Seems like if you drill through that.
I think it'd be better if you just build it full of concrete.
Me too.
Your friction
Me
level
too.
would be higher, not lower, it'd be like an anchor. I don't-
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's, you asked, that's the explanation, that's why we've got a little bit of red in the.
Just go tell him
We
no.
started a pool as to whether or not they'll hit the pipe.
That's the over and under on it.
John, we don't gamble.
Let's do it the modern way. I do, I still farm a little. But anyway.
So, that's it for the report. Other
Thank
than
you,
that,
Commissioner.
we'll do it.
All right, item 10 is discuss RFP to lock in retail electricity price return beginning on or about October 2025. Commissioner Watts?
Yes, sir, Judge, thank you. I just asked Nancy to put this on here. I just wanted to be clear about the fact that the 5 group, which wanted to serve as brokering the RFP, would not be participating in this because they're not a provider of any sort. So they weren't interested if we didn't utilize them for this RFP. I just really don't understand, and I'm like Willie, it nearly has to have a action piece in it on their behalf somewhere, whoever the recipient is for this 2025 to 2030, to bring in a broker in order to do the RFP when we can just go out to the different entities. We've identified 3 interested parties: Reliant, TXU, and Direct.
And I have another interested party that would like the opportunity to bid.
They can respond to the RFP.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you, Lee, would give that to Willie, he'll mail them one. And Willie, Nancy's gonna help us with the Reliant contact locally to give that RFP to here. Because our discussions with Reliant came through 5. But basically, all 3 have agreed, and I guess we would have to, and Nancy, if you'll give me that, I'll call prior to, but, 5 had negotiated a deal with Reliant to waive any underage and overage of electricity usage. Direct and TXU both have agreed to do the same thing. Both of those are receiving RFPs. The Reliant person that was in discussion with 5 that had acknowledged to do that may not exactly realize it was us wanting the bid, so I'll clarify that with Reliant as well. But all apples should be apples in this.
What's your anticipated date?
Willie,
Open on 22nd of April.
and we're
When it goes
looking,
out, that's when we open.
We're sending them out now.
Okay.
and we're looking at
Posted on the website.
a very good savings, and if we can hopefully get this in place before rates change too much. They're creeping, but it's a perfect storm for us to reach out and take some good low pricing. but if that's the feel of everybody to bypass the 5 group,
Yes.
do that.
Okay. I did receive a text from the auditor saying that they were working on the request that was issued, given the 21st, to have them try to get their information updated. But one of the things I think, and Commissioner Harvey said this a while ago, there are 2 offices that are very key to our county operation that so much goes through. One is the auditor's office, the other one's a civil division. And I mean, if the rest of us had laundry lists as long as theirs of required and requested things, it would be tough. I'm just thankful both those offices get as much done as they do with the size staff they have. But so the things are relative as to when you get them, and they will work that in, just like gosh, the number of contracts Meredith and she's working on and I'm waiting to read is tremendous. All right, we're down to public comments. Anyone in the audience have anything to bring up? Mr. Hampton.
I do, Commissioners and Judge, just to keep you in the loop, I've been told to fax, ACH, which is actually a wire transfer to Yates this morning for $815,854.11. I'm sure you guys are aware of that and probably approved it. I just want to make sure that
That was on.
you know what's fixing to go out.
Yes, sir. And they did appreciate you.
And I'd like to have that part of the minutes too. I never got a bill, so.
Because we
You never got a bill?
wonder why it posted on the agenda. How did we know to post it?
I asked Deb, it's in the bills.
It's
They
in,
emailed that, yeah, they emailed the bills. But it will be.
we can get
So
Bob a
there's
copy.
PDF over there for $855,000.
815.
15.
Yes, ma'am. Just-
I saw one in there for 200 and something, and I saw another one for 200.
And that's just because if I drop dead, I want somebody to be able to look in the book that I've got and realize, hey, this is where it is. And I know you guys are busy, and 815,000, you probably need to keep that on your mind. It's going out today. I'd like somebody to tell me that.
I'm just glad we have it this end. Okay.
You can expect every month you're gonna get $1 million bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pretty
I
much.
mean, some are gonna be bigger than that. We don't have 70.
Yeah, I'm just giving you
Yeah, we don't.
particulars now.
We appreciate it going out on wire. That'll help the process out.
Yeah.
We don't go frantically looking for a check that's 2 weeks sitting on someone's desk in Alabama.
Well, we did tell them you were certainly willing to take it, so you could explore a lot of the southern battlegrounds.
I've already volunteered for that.
Yeah, I know you were certainly willing to do that. All right, anyone else in the audience? Okay, Commissioner Beecham.
Just a brief update on the Amoresco project. I know it sent out an email letting everyone know they're going to be in the courthouse doing lighting. It has been delayed because the delivery company that was making a shipment of lamps dropped the pallet off of the truck and destroyed 1,400 and something like that. So it had to be reordered.
The whole
pallet was destroyed, so that's why we haven't seen any activity on that. They were in the building last week, looking at the chiller and the boiler again. The chiller, they're going to do some maintenance and repairs on our existing chiller to try to get us through to May, which is the anticipated delivery date on the new chiller. And make sure we keep the one we have running the best we can. Also, the boiler, I've asked to put that as priority project item number 1 to get that boiler replaced this summer, so we go into.
What is the difference in the cost of the boiler that Amoresco is providing and the cost of the new boiler that the new, boiler? What is that they call it there?
Chiller?
Chiller. What's the difference in the price?
I don't know what the price is, because I haven't seen what the new chiller is yet.
It's supposed to be identical to that one out there. Identical.
I think it's a little bit larger. It's the same brand.
It's already been purchased, so hasn't it? I thought we did already get it.
That was part of the delay.
Oh, that's part of the delay?
That didn't happen, we thought it was happening.
Well, I'd like to know the difference in the price, because the guy that we bought this one from didn't even get an opportunity to get it.
It's easy.
Kind of curious to know.
They did the entirety of the HVAC project.
Like,
Will we be able to salvage any of those condensers?
We can keep anything that we have.
we have to do it at auction. We can't take it to the,
But we could use, I guess, and we've got some big compressors, don't we? I mean, that are gonna come offline.
We should have.
That-
And we're going to salvage 2 of the rooftop units that I'm aware of off of the annex building to reuse for spray. One immediately and one in reserve, so we can keep it flipping through for the next 18 months or whatever. So yeah, we're looking at what is salvageable, what we can use in our inventory and what we just need to get rid of.
Okay, Commissioner Hart.
we have this, hey, what did I do with my stinking deal here? There it is. For, over there on Flood Street at they call it the RAC Training Center. Redneck Culinary Academy will be feeding about 100 firefighters from the region coming in for a special school. Next week on April the 12th, we have the DAV golf tournament at River Creek. Of course, Sunday the 21st is Easter Sunday.
It's a little ways down the road.
I'm just looking at the calendar here. That's all I have for this week, just the training over at the training center on Flood Street.
What day is that week?
That is on a Thursday.
That's an evening.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, Commissioner Moller.
I just want to publicly ask Bob Hampton not to drop dead because I'm not sure we can find his book. That could, at least he was still here, but. And I can say that because his desk kind of resembles mine, but mine's not quite where it's anyway. No, I'm glad he has a book. I just don't know where it is. Guys, this is the first time I'm going to be able to say this in quite some time. It's getting dry in the country. And we've got a lot of fuel raised, and fire danger is going to go up tremendously over the next few weeks. We're into April, which should be more windy conditions, and I just encourage everyone to be very careful. I know a lot of people are doing yard work, they're cleaning things up, they want to make a little brush fire, clean up some things. Just be careful. We do have some rain to forecast later in the week. It's dry.
Don't take it and dump it in the Florida.
Do not take it. I've got a crew out, even as we speak, I bet everybody at this table does, picking up. Spring is the worst because everybody cleans up their yard on weekends, and on Monday we pick it all back up. And it ties our crews up, and we can't be out working on other things when we do that. But be careful with the fire. As the wind blows, it's going to be tough. But we need rain. It's been a long time since I can say that. It's getting dry.
Okay, Commissioner Watts.
While I've got Meredith and Amanda here, OSHA 300 log, is that something that we're required to keep for injury or on the job?
No, local governments are not subject to OSHA.
Okay, so we don't have to comply. Good. Well, had experienced that recently, and I just thought, I didn't know what we did in that regard, but we're making progress. Chad Wilson's hopefully could be through with us tomorrow, and we've going to have about 2.5 miles of road ground completely up, and we've got it worked back down and packed, so we're going to be ready to move on it straight away and get some oil down here before long and make progress. We're done back into that time of year here quickly. So
did he get his machine working, or did he bring in the other one?
They didn't tell me whether he swapped it out or what he did.
I think they're gonna try to finish that project with that machine. It's going to the shop. I talked to Randy this morning, and it'll be changed out hopefully later this week. They're gonna bring another one in, so it's both really. They're having to drain oil every day, put fresh oil in, just put diesel oil.
Oh, me.
That's what they're doing to finish.
To finish up.
We've got hours out, our little one, we're using it as we speak, so.
And Mark, we could sure use that when you get through. We've got some of those small areas that we want to get right in behind there on, so.
We couldn't wait anymore on some of our,
But yeah, it's hard to believe, Barry, that's kind of getting dry like it is, and maybe, you know, part of our problem is that rain from north, that when it rains north and south on us, that it bypasses all the reservoirs because they're full, and it comes straight on down, and it's a larger impact than ever before, so that could change, I guess, if the wind blows and it stays dry, but doesn't seem.
certainly took a beating over the winter.
Yeah. So, but that's all I have, Judge.
All right. I drove across Arrowhead last week, and it looked like water was still
coming over Spillway a little.
Yeah, it was shiny. That may have been the wind blowing that across there.
It's that low, that's 100%.
Yeah. Region 9 is the location for the poverty simulation deal's going on. It'll be 1 to 5 tomorrow, and then the Cowboy Troop this past weekend was well done. Was neat. Well, they make some good beans and cornbread.
Oh, wow.
I guarantee you that. So that was good. A lot of interesting display stuff, and some kids. They had kids do cowboy poetry, and there was.
I saw that advertised.
Yeah.
I wondered how that was.
They went super, and that was organized by a teacher out of Throckmorton. Jumped on that, and so Nancy, 2 p.m. Thursday, a meeting on the budget, is that, or Wednesday? I saw that on my calendar, and it didn't say it was a specific department.
I think it's Wednesday, if that's the end office.
Oh, okay, it's just, yeah, okay, it's just the offices, all right. Okay, it's not a general, it's not Commissioner's Court, okay. All right, something I better announce. We did a proclamation this morning recognizing Interface 40th anniversary. Their banquet is next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. at First United Methodist. And, given how close they work with us on disasters, it'd be nice. It's $5 a head and branding iron food, so it's kind of hard to beat that. But you do have to go online or call the office and make those.
While you were mentioning the lake, I went on the USGS site.
Yeah.
Lake Kickapoo, when it, at its capacity, is at 1,145 feet. It is at 1,140. It is at. I think I wrote that down wrong.
I was gonna say that's a 100 foot below.
Yeah, I wrote it down on there. Found it right quick.
Okay. And the camp is 1144.
And it's at 1144.32.
So it's going over.
It is over.
And Arrowhead's going over.
Yeah, it's 10. That's a 0. The capacity of Kickapoo is 1045. All three of them are going over the spillway.
Wow.
That's according to the USGS site.
Okay.
That's probably the first time in 50 years.
Yeah.
Have them all three.
Well, 15 might have had all three of them.
Yeah, I think 15 did.
Yeah, I was thinking one of them didn't
Meredith.
make it though.
But this is a real cool deal.
That
Judge.
meeting
You
is
just
Wednesday
tap on it. What lake do you have
with,
your place
I
on?
think it's Barry and Judge,
What's the name of the lake, Jump
but
Pool?
you probably should
No,
be there.
It says Mark.
It's Mark.
Or Hubbard Creek.
Hubbard Creek and Brecken Ridge?
Yeah.
Hubbard Creek near Brecken Ridge? You're going over to, oh, you're not going over this building.
No, just
But it's
below.
slam full.
300's below.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Last time I was there, Judge, it's been a couple of years, we couldn't see the water.
yeah, get binoculars.
Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing that's coming up this week on Thursday is the Safe Place Luncheon at noontime at the Elks, and that's working with the CASA and the Children's Home and it's Patsy's House. I think it's all of them go together.
Fundraiser kind of thing where you pay spaghetti dinner or something?
I don't know what it is. It's in noon. I didn't have the menu, but it's at the Elks, so
Okay,
you know, it's gonna be
always good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, all right. Anything else? Okay. It is 11:32 and we're adjourned.